So take a deep breath and let.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We do hope your spirits are back on, since for the next agenda, we'll continue on to having the fifth plenary session with the theme, Introduction to Digital Transformation. But before that, we would like to introduce you to our moderator, Miss Ega. Is Miss Ega already in the Zoom with us right now?
Yes, I'm here. Is my voice heard clearly?
Yes, I can hear your voice clearly. I think I want to introduce Ms. Ega first. Ms. Ega is our lecturer in the Industrial and System Engineering Department who will be guiding the flow of the session. All right, Ms. Ega, the Zoom is completely yours. Happy learning, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much, Master of Ceremony, for allowing me to continue to the next session. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ega Rizkia. You can call me Ega. I'm a lecturer of Industrial and System Engineering Department, the moderator of today's plenary session. Okay, I'm very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you to this Summer Camp Ingenious 2022. Okay, today our speaker is Professor Wang Tsong. Is Professor Wang already here? Sorry, I think your speaker already.
Oh, I'm here.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Can you guys hear me now?
Professor Wang is here with us all today. Good afternoon, Professor Wang. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Okay, let me read the resume of Professor Wang. Professor Wang is one of the professors at the Institute of Industrial and Information Management at National Cheng Kung University, Taiwan. His research interests are e-commerce, information system or technology adoption, knowledge management, and system dynamics. And he has received his PhD in information science from the State University of New York at Albany. Okay, thank you very much for coming to ITS, Professor Wang. And today's plenary session is about the introduction of digital transformation. Before the presentation begins, let me inform how the presentation will be going on. First, Professor Wang will be invited to present the material for 45 minutes. And after that, there will be a question and answer session. So if you have any question during the presentation, just type your question by clicking the link of Slido in the chat box. At the end of the speaker session, if there is still time for the question and answer session, I, as a moderator, will invite you to activate the microphone so you can ask your question directly to Professor. And then, in the last session, I will share the conclusion of this session. Now, allow me to welcome the speaker, Professor Wang, to deliver his material. Professor, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Professor Ega.
Yes.
May I just confirm one more thing?
Yes.
You just said that I had 45 minutes for my presentation, right? Ideally.
Yes, 45 minutes for the delivered material and 10 minutes for Q&A.
All right. So because originally I thought I have 1 hour, so maybe I need to make some adjustment. But that's good. So you guys do not have to be bored by me for way too long anyway. So, okay, 45 minutes. All right.
Okay, yeah. And I will let you know 10 minutes before the time is up.
Okay. Yeah. So shall I start? Shall I start right now? May I start my presentation right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending this session. And I would like to thank Professor Risky for giving me this opportunity to give a talk here. Today I'm going to, at least from my own perspective, to talk about what do we think of the orientation of digital transformation. Actually, before this session, I checked the program. I think that you guys have already heard lots of things about digital transformation, and I assume that there will be some of them that would be repeatedly mentioned in my presentation. But hopefully, I think my presentation can help you to think about those things from a different perspective. Okay, so because I don't speak very loud usually, so I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me clearly this way.
Yes,
is everything okay right now? Okay, that's great. So let me share my presentation slide. Okay, so can you guys see the PowerPoint slide
Yes, we already see your screen.
instead of my face? Okay, all right. So I think everything is fine. So I will begin my presentation. I would like to talk about, I would like to give you guys a general introduction to the idea of digital transformation. I prepared for this presentation actually based on a request from a college classmate of mine who is working in the industry as a chief information officer of electronic chain stores. And even though that he is the one of the senior managers of the company, and he still having trouble understanding what do we mean by digital transformation and what the company should do in order to catch up with this orientation around the globe. So that's why I spend time to prepare for this presentation, and hopefully I can introduce the concept of digital transformation from probably different perspectives to help you think deeper about how you can do as a company manager to help your company to utilize the digital resources available to the company to generate some leverage, generate some advantages for your company. Okay. So first, I would like to talk about the definition of digital transformation. This one is more like a academic driven definition of digital transformation. All right. Usually, scholars define digital transformation as a change in all positions. It means that everybody in the company is involved. Okay. Everyone is involved. Everyone has some sort of responsibility to help the company to achieve the task of digital transformation. No one should be ruled out. Okay. Nobody can say that it's not my business. It's everybody's business. I think this is very important because this is a very important mindset that the employees of the company should have in order to make this work. Okay. And the second thing is that digital transformation is about business reinvention. I don't know how you guys interpret the word reinvention, but from my point of view, it's not like some kind of upgrade of your company's business. It's like completely change the way your company do business. Maybe not right from the beginning, but that would be the ultimate goal. So every time when we talk about digital transformation, it's not about how we can do our business using the old way. It's always about what would be the new way, new possible ways that we can adapt to continue to run our business. So it's a reinvention, not an upgrade. Okay. And the third one is quite obvious. It will become for the company who want to be succeed in digital transformation, you have to monitor your customers in a more timely and closer manner. Okay. And the other keyword of digital transformation is right here, service oriented. I will get to this point probably in more details later. But generally speaking, it means that no matter what kind of company you are, what kind of companies you are, we don't talk about products anymore. We talk about services. This concept may be very difficult to digest for some traditional manufacturing companies because a majority of their products are physical products. People can touch those products, can see those products. But in the era of digital transformation, even for that kind of manufacturing companies, they have to reset their focus on services. they have to always think about what kind of services they can offer. Okay, and I will get to that in more details later. And the last one is quite obvious. It's a data-based management procedures. Okay, I think it means that every decision we are going to make for our companies, it has to be made based on the data, not based on someone's years of experiences. Okay, no matter how long that experience is. Okay, and I think that's the 5 basic elements of the academic definition of digital transformation. I think a classic example of digital transformation would be the popularity of social networks or social networking services. Okay, we consider social networking service providers is a classic example of digital transformation, because that the use of social networking services actually dramatically transform the way people meet each other, communicate with each other, and even learn about each other. That's one significant differences. Okay, this kind of services make to the world, and it also actually transformed, especially in recent 5 years. Social networking services also dramatically transform the way people acquire information they need in their daily lives. Okay, I think everyone has some kind of experience that in the old days, when you want to acquire some important pieces of information, the first choice you have in mind may be using some kind of online search engines, right? But I don't know you guys, but at least in my surroundings, some people, search engines is no longer the first choice of some people when they want to look for some pieces of information. They look directly on the social networking services. Okay, so that's another kind of significant transformation social networking services brings to the world. Okay, so it's a very classic example. So generally speaking, digital transformation from an academic point of view, it's about reshaping the management processes, okay, in order to offer innovative services, and then help the company to redesign their business model, redesign the way they do business in order to continue to be successful in their business environment. And if we want to give a headline for digital transformation, it means that in the old days, the most precious capital for a company could be something physical, for example, land, batteries, or equipment. But in the era of digital transformation, data is the new type of critical capital. And the key to success would be how effective we can utilize those data to help us reinvent our business. Okay, so now we can move on to the definition of digital transformation, which is developed by some industry professionals. I assume that everybody know what McKinsey is, right? It's a very famous global consulting company. Okay, and the consultants in this company, they define digital transformation as the rearrangement of technology, business models, and the associated business processes in order to create new values for the customers, employees, or some other stakeholders. For example, the company's business partners. Okay, and those values can be associated with many different kind of business processes. For example, those values can be created through the innovative product design process or product production process, product delivery services. Even the excuse me, even the associated services. Okay, for example, you are selling one product A, and you develop a number of associated processes in order to help your customers to utilize your product A even more effectively. Okay, and by utilizing those services, you can sort of lock in your customers to increase their switching cost. That's what I mean. Okay. And the consultants in the McKinsey company, they also emphasize one particular issue, which is about the customer, the handling of customer dissatisfaction. Okay. In the old days, we will consider customer dissatisfaction as a problem to be resolved. The consultants in this company, they think it differently. They think of it differently. They think of customer dissatisfaction as an opportunity to learn about what is missing from the services or the product we offer to our customers. Okay, so far so good. All right, so let's move on. I think next I would like to talk about the driving force of digital transformation. The first one is globalization. I think it's quite easy to understand because of the popularity of the use of internet. All the companies can extend their reach globally to many different groups of customers who was not within the reach of the company in the old days. So that actually is a two-edged sword. It creates opportunities for the companies, but also it creates opportunities for the competitors of the companies, which means that the competition in the market will become more and more intense. So it becomes more and more important for companies to understand customer needs in a more timely manner. And this one is even more interesting because that because of the advancement of the information technologies, people acquire more and more pieces of information in a more and more easy easy way. So it means that their needs change constantly and much more faster than before. So it's become more and more important for companies to continue to monitor the changes in the customer needs in order for you to respond properly. Okay. The second driving force will be the innovativeness enabled by technology. This is particularly true for small and medium enterprises. Because of the advancement in the IT, information technologies, things that would cost a fortune for a company and it can only be done by companies with large financial resources are now achievable with much less cost for the small and medium companies. It means that for small and medium companies, things that they cannot afford doing in the old days can be done in today's environment. And that also gives them some more opportunities to expand their business. So it's a very important driving force of digital transformation. And the third one will be the changes of the business process caused by the internet-based services. And these three services are the most significant internet-based services we can witness today. Okay, as I just mentioned, the social networking services. And I think everybody are quite familiar with the mobile services. I think it's quite obvious because that I don't know you guys, but I have a kind of reminder for myself when I get out of my house in the morning. In the old days, I will check my key, check my wallet, check my mobile phones in that specific order. My key, my wallet, my cell phone. But right now that order has changed. Okay, it changes to mobile phone, my wallet, my key. I'm sorry, I know it might not be very obvious to you guys, but what I mean is that we can live without our wallet, without our key, but we cannot live without our mobile phone right now. Can you guys agree with that? In the future, I think you don't need your wallet because you can pay for what you want to buy using the third-party online payment services through your mobile phone, right? You don't have to take the house key with you because your mobile phone can serve as a key to your house, right? So that's why these three internet-based services are so important right now, and it drives the it drives the company's efforts towards a digital transformation. And of course, there are some other different kinds of the technologies we can take into considerations. For example, maybe some 3D printing, some nanotechnologies, some sensor technologies related to the use of the Internet of Things. Okay, they are all driving forces of digital transformation. And here are some other driving forces of digital transformation. And because of the time constraint, I will just skip them. All right, but I would like to emphasize one of them, which is the trend of sharing economy. Do you guys have a Grab taxing service in your country? CRAB or Uber or Blue Jet taxing service? Yes. That's a business model based on the concept of sharing economy, right? You can use your own car as taxi when you are free. Then you use the app service provider to help you connect with the people who need taxing services, right? Then you can use your own car temporarily, or I should say anytime you want, as a service car for taxing service. Then to help you to earn some money, reduce some idle cost of your car, right? So that's the idea of sharing economy. And this is quite important because this idea has been applied to many different aspects of businesses. For example, I don't know whether or not if you guys have this kind of services in Indonesia, but let me see if I can share my screen with you. Okay, might be difficult. Can you see the screen?
Yes, can see your screen.
But that's not the screen I want to share.
You mean the Vogue?
The Vogue?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, that's the one. Have you seen the headline here? Would you borrow from a stranger's wardrobe? That means that you can borrow some other people's clothes with a reasonable fee. And in addition to that, you can also rent your clothes that you don't wear very often to other people for some profit. Okay. So it's the concept is very similar to the online testing services, right? But this concept can be applied to this particular area, which is quite interesting. And I'm wondering what will be the next thing we can borrow from a stranger, right? I don't know, use your imagination, but that would definitely change the way companies do business a lot in the future. Okay. Okay. So right now I would like to move on to the guidelines of digital transformation. And I think I have to waste too much time. So I will have to pick up my pace. So the first thing is that senior managers have to commit themselves to serve as the champion, as the key facilitators of the digital transformation initiatives in their companies. They have to take the responsibility to allocate necessary resources and define responsibilities for everybody in order to encourage him to motivate everyone in the company to to work hard to achieve the digital transformation related objectives. And in addition to that, senior managers have also have to take the responsibility to identify and define the manageable goals or performance indicators to help their subordinates to have a standard to evaluate how well they are doing in terms of digital transformation. Okay. And the second important guideline here is that the companies have to adopt the learning culture. Learning culture is not a new concept. People have been talking about it since 30 years ago, in early 1990s. But here is a slightly different. Here we emphasize learning from data. We emphasize learning from data. Just like what I just said, it means that no more stereotype, no more personal experiences. Every decision you make should be based on data. And if you don't have data to support, to back up your decision making, then don't make that decision. Okay, don't make that decision. That's the differences right here. Okay. In order to successfully adopt this learning culture, I think the companies need to recruit both the IT professionals and the management professionals, because management professionals will give the company clues about what data we should be looking at. And the IT people, they cannot tell us what to look, but they can help us figure out when you want to look at something, how you may be able to look at it. Okay. So IT is about how we can acquire and interpret data. Management is about what data we should be looking at. And what do we expect from looking at those data? These two kinds of people have to work together in order to make this work. Okay. And this concept seems quite straightforward, but actually it's very difficult to achieve in a company, in a real company, based on my own consulting experiences. Okay. So we have to emphasize this issue when we want to talk about digital transformation in our own companies. And the third guideline is that you must have a roadmap or strategic planning available in your company. And this strategic planning efforts must consider the following issues. For example, the development of the digital strategies and the analysis of business models. And you have to re-examine customer needs. I think you guys can read all those things on your own. Here, I want to tell you, I want to emphasize the digital strategies. Digital strategies is the at least from the area of strategic management. It's a relatively speaking new term. It emphasizes that it emphasizes the development of strategies to help the companies realize how they can utilize the data available to them to create some leverage or create some competitive advantages for their company. Okay. For example, do you guys still buy a paper-based newspaper right now? Probably not anymore, right?
No.
No, right? So what do you do when you want to read some news to catch up with the world? You go to the internet, right? Go to some kind of internet news website, right? So what will happen to the traditional newspaper publisher? They don't have any buyers anymore. So what do? They will be forced to go out of business, right? So if you are the managers of this kind of traditional newspaper publisher, how you can utilize the resource available to you at the moment to transform your business, probably using digital technologies, would be the things you should consider when you are developing your digital strategies. Okay. And I think this is not very clear, but in my own way, okay, based on my understanding about strategic management, maybe I can use another way to explain this issue. It will be more easier for you guys to understand. Can you guys see the screen? It's a whiteboard, right?
Yes, you can
So,
see your screen.
In the old days, when we talk about strategic management, we talk about all these things. On the right-hand side, that's the primary thing, which will be your business strategy. Okay, that would be the things you want to do. And by referring to today's topic, it is actually your digital strategy. They are pretty much similar things. Or you can say that digital strategies would be a very important part of your overall business strategy. Your digital strategy will be a very important part of your business strategy. When you decide what kind of business strategies you want to implement, then it will help you define your information management strategy. What information you need, how you should use those information, those pieces of information, okay? And under the business strategy, we will have our business methods, okay? Then we will have detailed business processes. So you have to figure out what business strategy your company want to achieve, want to implement. Then you will figure out what kind of business methods you should use. Then you can figure out what kind of critical business processes you should perform. Then, based on your business strategy, you figure out what information you should have and how you should manage it. Then you can figure out what kind of the information system you should have in order to help you effectively manage those pieces of information. Then you can figure out what kind of information technology you should use to help you develop this information system. And then they are all have some kind of bidirectional influences with each other. That's the way we comprehend the issue of strategic management in the world of digital transformation. Okay. Hopefully that will help you better understand the general roadmap of the strategic planning in digital transformation. All right, some other guidelines that you have to create a supportive environment. For example, you have to create a corporate culture for real-time communications, regardless of the positions. But it's easy to say than done, okay? As a very frontline employee, you may have the guts to talk directly to your probably CEO, right? But that's what the CEO should do. You should create some kind of the environment to tell your employees, don't be afraid of talking to me. If you cannot find your direct supervisor at the moment, but it's quite critical, feel free to contact your CEO, and you will not be punished or blamed in any way, right? So that's quite important culture we need to create in the company. And the other one would be you have to seriously consider collaborating with external agents. For example, some management consultants or some professionals from your business partners, because people actually create more information than we can absorb, faster than we can absorb. So most of the time, it will be impossible for one single company to get hands on all the necessary data about their business on their own. They have to rely on working with their business partners in order to have a, relatively speaking, complete set of data to help them make some critical business decisions. So you need to seriously consider about working with people outside your companies by creating digital value network. So it means that you have to create a network which allow you to digitally exchange, share information with your business partners, even with your customers, sometimes in some special cases, even with your competitors, okay? In order to make sure the survival of all the companies, okay? And you can also think about whether or not you can get some additional support from your government agencies. For example, in Taiwan, our government actually have a special budget for supporting small and medium enterprises to perform their digital transformation initiatives. We have a official code, official regulation for this kind of financial support. But actually, most of these companies in my country do not know the existence of this financial support. So that's why I think maybe you guys can check it out from your own government. Maybe they offer that kind of support. Okay. And the third one will be the continuous governance, and it's about you need to have a clear long-term and short-term objectives of digital transformation, and you have to identify and define measurable performance indicators to help you to constantly monitor how well you are doing regarding achieving your objectives for business transformation, for digital transformation. So this this picture actually summarizes what I've been talking about digital transformation. I think we need to excuse me. We need to think about digital transformation from all those different dimensions. Okay. Right now, I would like to move on to the stages of digital transformation. I think that this framework for the stage of digital transformation can help companies to evaluate where they are in terms of utilizing digital technologies to create leverage for their companies. The first one is on unaware level. That means that you have no idea what you are doing about your digital resources, about the available digital technologies. And the second stage will be the conceptual level. The conceptual level means that you have utilized some available digital technologies and digital resources to create probably a couple of digitalized services for your stakeholders, for example, customers or business partners. But you still have no idea about what benefits those digitalized services can create for your company. You just provide them and oh, okay, it's nice to your customers, to your business partners, but you still have no idea how it can create possible how it can create tangible benefits to your company. Okay. And the third stage will be the define level. Define level is like you have the.
Sorry, Professor.
Yes.
Yes, because the screen is not changed yet. It's still in the drawing.
All this time?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry about it.
And the deliver time is 10 minutes left. Yeah, already see your screen in the presentation material.
The right screen.
Yeah.
Can you guys see the screen right now for the stages?
Yes, correct.
Okay. This is the general framework for digital transformation that I summarized. And this is the stage of digital transformation. And I think that we were on number 3. Define level means that you have a clear idea about what objectives you want to achieve by offering those digitalized services. And maybe I forgot to mention the keyword being service, not products, service. Okay. This is a very important concept because in the future, it's service driven. It's a service driven market. And let me finish all the stages first. The last one will be the integrated maturity stage. It means that you have a long-term planning about how you can utilize the digital services you are providing or you are going to provide to create measurable, tangible benefits to your company. So defined level is like a short-term objective, the achievement of short-term objective. The integrated maturity level would be like the long-term objective, okay? And the entire framework of stage emphasize one thing, which is digitalize the services. So that's why I mentioned that no matter what kind of companies you are right now, in the future, you have to somehow define yourself as a service provider, not a product manufacturer, okay? For example, I assume everybody know what Coca-Cola Corporation is, right? They produce soft drinks. But do you guys know how they define themselves right now? They define themselves not as a manufacturer of soft drinks, as a service provider for fulfilling the needs of thirst of the customers. Do you guys see the differences? They don't talk about product. They talk about satisfying customers' needs for thirst, for dehydration. Okay? So they consider themselves as a service provider, okay? Not a manufacturer. Another example would be Mercedes-Benz. Everybody know what this company is, right? It's a car manufacturer in Europe, right? Right now, they don't define themselves as a car manufacturer anymore. They define themselves as the service provider for fulfilling the needs for mobility. Okay, then fulfilling the need for mobility is the primary objective of the company. Using the car they manufactured as the vessel, the primary purpose is to fulfill the needs for customers' need to move around. That's how they define themselves in the era of digital transformation. That will be a huge differences. So the key concept here is that we as companies, we cannot define ourselves as manufacturers anymore. You have to somehow figure out what kind of customer needs you are trying to fulfill right now by offering either physical products or intangible services, hopefully both. And the ratio will be leaning towards offering services. Products will eventually become accessories, at least conceptually, okay? At least conceptually. So keyword is service, and digitalize the services to be exact, okay? Because I don't have enough time, and I'm sorry for not controlling the time very well. So if you guys don't mind, I think I would like to jump to the next two slides I prepared for today's presentation.
Yes, Professor, I think we can extend the time around 5 more minutes to continue the presentation, and then we move on to the question and answer session.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. I think I can wrap it up in 2 minutes, in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So based on the recent consensus in the industry, people believe that in the era of digital transformation, there are three primary kinds of three primary kinds of key capitals we should pay attention to. The first one will be the behavioral capital. It means that we need to acquire data which will help us to predict the rapidly changing customer needs. As you can see, the keyword being behavior. We want to predict the behaviors, but it's become more and more difficult because customer needs change more and more rapidly over time. So it's very important we can acquire this kind of data to control this kind of behavioral capital in order to be successful. And the second kind of key capital would be the cognitive capital. Cognitive capital is actually about a company's capability of utilizing the data collection and data analysis techniques. For example, some methods from artificial intelligence, from machine learning, okay, to interpret the data and to determine how they can utilize the data. That's the cognitive capital of a company. And the third kind of capital will be the network capital. As I mentioned previously, in today's environment, it's almost impossible for one single company to have control over all the data they need in order to establish an adequate and a complete understanding about their customers. So it's inevitable for the company to work with some other companies as a network in order to digitally share information with among one another to help all the companies involved in this network to have sufficient sufficient data to make any management decisions. So network capital is also one of the key capitals of the era of digital transformation. And because Professor Risky told me that this summer camp is about Industries 4.0, although I am not hardly an expert on Industry 4.0, but I think I can still offer you some things I heard from people in the industry. The first thing is that there's actually a key question. Is it necessary for all the companies to achieve 4.0? Or maybe 3.5 would be a more realistic objective. That's the thing we need to think about. 4.0 will always be the vision, but in reality, it requires lots of financial and manpower investment, okay? And for most of the companies, they cannot afford to wait for like a decade to see those investments to show their positive influences, okay? So the reality would be that we have to consider how we can do in order to retrieve all our investments in a relatively short period of time. And based on my communication with people in the industry, that time frame should be like 3 to 5 years, no longer. So all the companies have to consider about the characteristics of their business, then to figure out how, to what degree you want to achieve. 4.0 may be a vision, but probably impossible to achieve forever, right? But 3.5 maybe would be a good target. That's the issues people have been talking about in Taiwan right now. And just for discussion purpose, do you guys know the average of the Industry 4.0 score in Taiwan? Taiwan, if I may, Taiwan has been considered a very successful manufacturing base for many different kind of industries. But still, based on a statistic in 2018 or 2019, our average score would be 2.2, which means that a majority of our companies still haven't digitalized all their manufacturing data. And do you guys know the average score of Industry 4.0 for the origin country of this concept, Germany? Actually, based on the statistic in similar year, probably 2019, the average score in Germany is 2.8 only. Not as high as we expected. Because as I said, there is a reality we need to consider. Okay, we need to first can retrieve our investment in a acceptable time frame. Then we can consider about moving on. All right. And the second issue about Industry 4.0 that people have been talking about is the management dimension. The first one will be the strategic dimension. It means that in order to achieve the objectives of Industry 4.0 or 3.5, the companies cannot consider about their manufacturing procedures based on whether or not we can acquire orders. We should consider about whether or not if we accept these orders, the manufacturing procedures related to this particular order, can we standardize it? Can we digitalize it and transform it into our corporate assets? So in the future, we can utilize it as the base to develop our smart manufacturing procedures. Taking order is not the primary priority. It's not the first priority anymore. You have to think about whether or not you can standardize those procedures, those manufacturing procedures. Okay, and the second dimension will be the organizational dimension, and this one is actually in line with the previous concerns in strategic management. It actually says that digital transformation requires fundamental changes at all levels in a company, and inevitably people don't like to change, at least not at work. So employee resistance would be a very important issue that the senior managers of the companies need to handle. Okay, so that's something we should consider when we want to achieve our Industry 4.0 initiatives. And the other three major dimensions will be related to what degree we can automate our manufacturing procedures. It highly depends on how many sets of data we can digitalize, how many data related to our manufacturing processes that we can digitalize. And the other dimension will be let me try to rephrase that. For automation, it means that how many data we can digitalize, and to what degree we can allow the machine to make decisions based on those digitalized data on their own. And the fourth dimension, digitalization, Internet of Things, is like the advanced version of the automation. It means that to what degree our machines can communicate with one another and jointly automatically make some decisions. And the last dimension will be that on top of all these four dimensions, whether or not we can create innovative services that can bring new values to our stakeholders. I think this concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your patience. And now I'm free to take any questions from you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Wang, for giving us such informative and interesting material. Okay, now we come to the question and answer session through Slido. I like to have maybe 3 questions from the participants, and I will choose the most interesting questions. Okay, committee, please help to share the screen of Slido. Yeah, thank you very much for the committee for helping me. The first one, question from Professor Moses. Okay, the question is about if digital transformation involves a total reinvention of a business system, at what point is it worth it for a firm or company to implement this? Okay, what do you think, Professor, about this question?
At what point is it worth? I'm not quite sure I completely understand the question, but I think this point is anytime. Okay, it's anytime. really, because
Okay.
things
Oh, okay.
happens faster
Okay.
than you expected. Yeah. If I may, I can offer you another example. But unfortunately, this example is not quite ideal. But may I share the screen again?
Yes, can. Sure.
Oh, okay. Okay. Have you seen the website of the Stitch Fix? This is a company that sells clothes online. I mean, in the beginning, they only sold clothes online. But as you know, these kind of companies are quite a lot in the internet, and the number of these kind of companies are increasing over time, right? So eventually, it will become a very competitive marketplace. And what this company does is that they utilize the data they acquire from their customers. They transform themselves into a personal styling service provider. In that means that if you are one of their customers and you are willing to subscribe their service, this company will offer you clothing advices every month, maybe for 3 or 5 set courses based on your personal characteristics. They will show you their design, and you can decide whether or not you want to buy the clothes. If you don't want to buy the clothes, that's fine. You can tell them why, or you don't have to tell them why. They will try to utilize the data to figure out what I should bring to you next month in order to make you want to buy the clothes I designed for you. So that this kind of services actually give this company an edge to compete with other clothing retailers, because they are not just a retailer of clothes anymore. They are a service provider. They offer valuable service provider to people probably like me. I have trouble picking what kind of clothes I should wear today. Okay, what kind of clothes I should buy. Right now, I have these kind of services. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Some people smarter than me, at least from in this area, will help me as long as I'm willing to pay like maybe $10 or $20 US dollars per month to them. So that gives them a quite significant advantages over their competitors. And in addition to that, it creates additional revenue sources for the company, right? So that's a pretty good thing, don't you think? So I'm very curious about what they are going to move on next. Okay, so from my point of view, I think every company should begin their digital transformation initiative like right now, not tomorrow, like right now. Okay, and whether or not it's worth doing that, I think it would be worth doing it as long as you do it right. But I'm pretty sure that if you don't start to do it right now, it may become way too late than you expected. Okay, it may be too late tomorrow. That's my perception. Hopefully, I have answered the question of. I have offered the answer to this question. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Professor, for a very detailed explanation about this question. Okay, we move on to the second one. Second one is from Anonymous. Greetings, Prof. Wang. Thank you for the incredible explanation. How do we know whether the digital transformation is working at our organization or business?
Okay. How do we know whether the digital transformation is working in our organizational business? I think the first indicator would be that whether or not you have already had some kind of digitalized service available to your stakeholders. That will be the one primary indicator. Okay. If you don't, try to find one first. Try to find the one that may not be able to give you additional revenue in the beginning, but you would allow some people, for example, your customer, to tell you that you are doing a great job. That should be a good start. And then you still haven't achieved this purpose, I would probably say that you have to move more quickly. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Professor, for the explanation. This makes us understand better. And for the last one, I think we have questions from Anonymous. In the terms of implementing digital transformation in our business, how do we avoid falling back into old habits instead of transforming forward?
I think I didn't mention this issue very clearly in my presentation, but actually, based on my own observation, senior managers is the key. The attitude of senior managers is the key. You have to communicate this idea. Everything has to be based on data. And in addition to that, senior managers have to, at least you have to assign some people to develop some kind of training program for all your employees, okay? To help them digest this idea of digital transformation, to help them digest that at some point, probably just today, you have to forget everything you have learned. Then try to learn something new from the data you have. No matter how ridiculous the things that you just learned is, as long as it's based on data, okay? But it's in one condition, your data has to be complete and accurate, okay? But I think senior managers is the key. And you cannot just say it. You have to push people to develop some kind of training program for the employees. And do not consider this training program as a waste of time. It's not, okay? All right, I think that's all I can think of right now.
Okay, it was very interesting, Professor. We learned a lot from Professor Wang about digital transformation. Yeah, because time is limited, we will end of this fifth session. Before closing the session, I will give a brief summary of the material related to digital transformation from Professor Wang. Okay, in his presentation, Professor Wang guided people to have in-depth look into the core of digital business and e-commerce. Digital transformation is imperative for all businesses, from small to enterprises, and it means changing the company organization with the purpose of thriving in digital world. And beside that, Professor Wang introduced many strategies, key factors, and that make a huge impact on the success of digital transformation. He also gave some advice about how to manage and analyze customers' data and get valuable information to improve business system. Okay, I would like to thank you for the Professor Wang for the informative and interesting presentation, and all the participants for their very active participation. Thank you, Professor Wang, for being willing to be speakers at this year's summer camp. Hopefully we can meet again on another occasion.
Thank you. I will be looking forward to it.
Yes, thank you very much. Finally, give a virtual applause for the speaker and for you all. I'd like to apologize if there are many mistakes made by me as a moderator during this session. And finally, I handed the screen to the Master of Ceremony to continue the summer camp agenda. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
All right, that marks the end of our fifth plenary session for the Ingenious Summer Camp 2022. Before we proceeding, we would like to express our huge thanks to Professor Wang and Ms. Ega